Hello, good morning. Welcome everyone to our launch of the local Pathways Fellowship. I'm Anna, I'm the manager of this program. I'm very excited to be working with you throughout the next year. I'm here with Sam Looney. He's the global coordinator of SDS and Youth, and he's here to uh, introduce the whole program today. I just want to give you a little bit of background on myself. I'm based on the SDS and Youth Secretariat here in New York, and I have a background on sustainable cities and urban development. I got a master's here in New York and in sustainability of urban environments, and I worked for a number of years on the Smart Cities New York conference, as well in some other projects related to urban innovation and knowledge sharing networks on how to share best practices between cities. So I'll hand it off to Sam here.
Great, thank you very much, Anna. So, as we say in SDSN Youth, being a global network, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone around the world. My name is Sam Loney, and I am the global coordinator of the SDSN Youth, and based here in New York City at the SDSN Secretariat. And I wanted to say welcome to the network. It's an absolute pleasure having you all here. We're very excited for the start of this project. And in particular, congratulations to each and every one of you for making it this far and becoming part of this project and taking this project into consideration and wanting to be part of the cohort for 2018-2019. We're very excited to have you on board, and apologies if there have been delays of any sort. It has just been quite a lot to handle. The interest from on this project has been immense, and we've been trying to coordinate it effectively to make sure that we have a good and coherent program set out for you. So thank you for your patience, and now we are ready to go onwards. We, as part of this cohort, we have approximately 50 fellows from 40 different cities, a truly diverse and global group of individuals who will come together in being the problem solvers and the individuals who create solutions for their communities and cities. And each of you have been selected because of your expertise, because of your passion, because of your experience, but also because of your potential to make a massive difference in your cities and how you can inspire others around the world to do the same. Now, I just wanted to give you an insight into the program, why it was created, what was the purpose of it, and what is the longer term vision. So the program was created at Habitat 3 in Ecuador. That's where it was launched, and it was seen as the official training and shall we say implementation program for young urban leaders for the implementation of the new urban agenda and SDG 11. And we partnered with UN Habitat to be able to deliver on this. And it has been remarkably successful in the past year and a half. And but I think that what the program is doesn't necessarily capture why it was made and what is the vision for it. So I think you've all been through the induction process, but I just wanted to re-emphasize a few facts. We now live in a world where we have got some serious challenges in the world of the Anthropocene, the age of human beings, where we move more rocks and sediments than all rivers combined, where 90% of plant activity happens where human beings have a significant impact. We have changed the geology of the planet so significantly that we are now in a new geological epoch. Then we have the issue of biodiversity, where we have species of plants and animals being threatened more and more, and we're seeing some very, very disturbing trends in that world. And of course, the issue of climate change, where a new article in The Guardian outlined research by the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, and it said that we basically have roughly 10 years to curb emissions significantly if we are to remain in line with the Paris Climate Agreement. Um, we have an age where the pollution in cities, pollution in the environment is causing significant damage to the health of individuals. Um, a world where inequality continues to grow, conflict is exacerbated, and the threats of conflict are growing and becoming more serious because of the impacts of climate change. There are multiple examples from Syria to Darfur and other cases where the ecological factors are actually leading, or in fact, not leading, but triggering violent conflicts. And this is leading to the plight of refugees. This is leading to um, a whole host of other issues around the world, and it's quite significant. Um, the state of inequality of the world, where a recent Oxfam report said that 42 individuals own as much wealth as the bottom 3.7 billion poorest people. So just 42 very rich people have as much money as the poorest half of the planet. At the same time, you have almost a billion people who live on less than $2 a day and in extreme poverty. They have 200 million children who cannot go to school, and the issue of healthcare and health systems. Um, and of course, the impact of humans on the physical earth and their consumption patterns. So you see these array of challenges in the world, and to overcome these challenges, the world needs a plan. And that's what they exactly did. World leaders gathered in New York in September at the UN General Assembly, and they adopted the Sustainable Development Goals, Agenda 2030, which it came about not as a result of uh, the UN making a set of goals and then handing it over to the governments. No, this was an incredibly inclusive process of negotiations for 3 years. So world governments for 3 years negotiated this. Millions of people voted on their priorities. It was the largest consultation history in the UN. There were something like 94 national surveys to help create these priorities. And after 3 years of negotiations, we had the 17 Sustainable Development Goals and the 169 targets. And the idea of the Sustainable Development Goals was that we need a plan of action to be able to create this. And for that, we need governments on board. And that's basically what happened. So governments don't agree too much, but they agreed to these SDGs and they adopted them in September 2015. And soon after, of course, they also went to Paris and got to the Paris Agreement. Now, on the Sustainable Development Goals, a lot of people will say, well, there's nothing new. Like, did we need a 3-year negotiation process to tell us that poverty is an issue? Did we need a 3-year negotiation process to say that we need to battle climate change? So what is new about these goals? It's not necessarily the goal itself, but the power of the SDGs is in goal-based planning, which is that if you want to achieve all this, you need to have a plan. And these sustainable development goals set out priorities for the world. It is a set of goals that the world can agree on and move towards the same direction towards. That's incredibly important. We know that goal-based planning has been incredibly successful in many other areas. But also, the Sustainable Development Goals is not just a whole bunch of goals that you say no poverty or zero hunger. You actually have indicators to measure your progress. And this is incredibly important. As the famous saying goes, you treasure what you measure. And this means that for you to be able to see how well you're doing and to make meaningful contributions and to make good decisions, You need to be able to measure your progress. And the Sustainable Development Goals provides a framework for that. And this is why it's so important. And of course, the goals are incredibly interlinked and very ambitious. So we've got this agenda. We've got 12 years to help achieve it, and we've got a long way to go. Um, and we're falling behind. There was a recent SDG index and dashboard produced by us here at the SDSN, which showed that no single country is on track to achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. And I encourage you to actually look at this SDG index and look for your country's performance on there. You can actually go and see where your country ranks and where it's falling behind, where it's doing well. But the overall trend is that there are a lot of challenges out there. So when you see this, it's easy to feel very disappointed and feel like, well, what can we do now? But I think part of the reason SDSN Youth was started, the Local Pathways Fellowship was started, was because we fundamentally believe that young people can have a significant impact and can help spearhead the sustainable development movement. And there are a bunch of reasons for that. Firstly, young people, this current generation is the biggest generation of young people the world has ever seen. Half the population of the planet is under the age of 30. That is very significant. If we're talking about a sustainable development movement, you need those massive numbers to be able to create that. Secondly, research shows that young people are some of the most creative demographics in the world. In fact, not some of the most creative demographic. And so if we are trying to tackle these problems and help create solutions, we need new ways of thinking. As Einstein famously said, you cannot solve problems with a similar thinking that was used to start them in the first place. So we need that creativity of young people to be able to solve a lot of these issues. Thirdly, this generation of young people is the most educated the world has ever seen. That's a very, very important quality for many to be able to tackle these issues in terms of planning, budgeting, leadership. These are all very significant. Additionally, this generation of young people show that their priorities are around sustainability, around social issues. They want to do community work. They want to volunteer. They want to donate their money because they have social causes that they believe in. And finally, it is the enthusiasm and the passion and the view on the world, which is an idealistic one. And for an ambitious agenda like the Sustainable Development Goals, we need idealism. And so this is why young people are particularly well placed to be able to lead the sustainable development movement, not just because they're young, but because being young gives them several advantages, which aligns really well with this movement that we need for the Sustainable Development Goals. Now, I think it's also important to identify the role of cities in the Sustainable Development Agenda. As many experts have said, the biggest challenges in the world, those outlined in the Sustainable Development Goals, take place in the cities. But the biggest opportunities also come from cities. So cities is where the SDGs will come to happen or fail. So the cities are incredibly important. Why? Because 70% of the global population is going to live in cities by the year 2050. Most of those are going to be young people. And this rapid urbanization will mean that cities will come to dominate the mid to later parts of the 21st century, if not already. So incredibly important spaces for the gathering of people, ideas, connections. Cities are also places where the biggest social movements today are starting. And these are very significant factors for why cities can be the place for transformation or downfall. It's where issues become exaggerated and exacerbated, but it's also where solutions can come about. So cities are an incredibly important place in the Sustainable Development Goals, and that's why there is a specific goal dedicated to SDG 11, sustainable cities and communities, and this is uh, where your work comes in. Um, so, what is your role as fellows? We see your role as problem solvers. Cities come with an array of problems and challenges, and you are the individuals who can help solve those um, through your imagination and through your creativity. So you are essentially the problem solvers of your communities. Um, but to solve problems, you need to have a comprehensive understanding of those issues that they involve, the root causes, the factors that influence them, and how these issues came to be. And I think that is a significant part of what Local Pathways is about. It is about exploring, researching, and finding out why these problems exist, what influences them, and why in your city in particular do other cities have the same problem. Is it an issue of data? Is it an issue of funding? Is it an issue of corruption? Is it an issue of infrastructure? What is it that is creating these significant challenges within your city? So Local Pathways Fellowship is about exploring and identifying those problems in a creative but also in a comprehensive and practical way. But this is unlike any other program. So apart from just researching and finding out what the issue is, we also want you to have a role in solving it. So going beyond the traditional research and learning of classrooms. Your job is to identify the problem, but help create a solution for it. And for us to be able to provide that ground and provide that support system for you to be able to do that. A project that you can then start, learn from, and eventually scale to solve that particular problem in your city. So the idea of Local Pathways is essentially a series of modules where you learn from the world's leading experts in cities and urban development. Using the lessons that you learn, you will then go on to explore and research to find and localize those lessons in your cities and apply it to your locality, and then but also try to go deeper and try to come up with a more in-depth understanding of those problems. But eventually, once you have that assessment, this is the first part of the fellowship. The second part and the latter part is actually brainstorming and creating a solution. And of course, the top solutions, we will invite and secure a spot at the World Urban Forum. The World Urban Forum is the biggest cities and SDG 11 forum in the world, run by UN Habitat and a partner government. And it's essentially where you will go to showcase this solution after this journey. So we will play. We unfortunately cannot offer spots to everyone, but we will select several fellows whose solutions are cutting edge and who have made a significant progress throughout the fellowship, and we will showcase those at the World Urban Forum. And of course, you will be there to do that. And I think just to give you a little bit of an overview of the last cohort. So the last cohort, we had roughly the same number of people from similar number of cities. They underwent, I think it was 10 modules or 9 modules in total. I must say that the training and learning and the modules we created for them are much more intense than the ones we created for you. So we've got some feedback on making them a little bit easier. So we've done that. But I think they went through a series of very intense modules and challenges and tasks that they had to do each month for each module. But I think in the end, the results were absolutely incredible. In the end, after 12 months of the fellowship, we selected, well, not 12 months, 10 months of the fellowship, we selected 12 individuals with very innovative projects who had gone through the challenges that had passed through each one, but also had come up with a very solid proposal or project. And we had some wonderful, wonderful projects from one on sanitation, gender, transport, public safety, urban blight, energy and climate change adaptation, urban green spaces, and lots of other very very creative elements to their solutions. And we can actually send some of the document about their solutions to you guys for you to look at. Um, but many of them have not turned into big projects. There was one which even got a government grant to not just do it in their city, the project, but to do it in 5 different cities, and it's a complete urban revitalization of dead cities in Iran. So one of our fellows from Iran did that, and that was just that just demonstrates what potential there is for the fellows to be able to actually create these wonderful projects. But I think the project itself, in many ways, goes beyond your city and community, because you going through this journey and coming up with this specific solution is and could be a source of inspiration to many, because we want to then use your story to inspire others in other cities around the world to do the same. And that's how you create a movement, by telling the important stories, by sharing best practices and identifying the individuals who can make this happen, and basically capturing their challenges and what opportunities they came across. So you, in many ways, will then become the teachers and the leaders of movements within your particular area of solutions. So, to summarize, the idea of local pathways is to go through the MOOCs to understand and with precision to create solutions that address and make interventions to make your city a better place and in line with the Sustainable Development Goals, and in particular, SDG 11, Sustainable Cities and Communities. And of course, as I said, we hope to record that and submit your results to the World Urban Forum, but also to the High Level Political Forum at the United Nations, which meets every July. Because I think world leaders need to look at these solutions done by young people, especially from ministers or policymakers from the countries. And that's something that we need to do. Now, in terms of our partner agency on the website, there are UN Habitat, World Urban Campaign, and many others. And of course, a range of supporters, including MIT University, Solve. And of course, we're working with a number of experts to make sure that apart from the MOOCs themselves and the videos, we also have live webinars where you can ask questions to the world's leading experts. And of course, throughout the course, if you come up with any ideas on individuals we should engage with, organizations that we should learn from, please point us to that direction, because we're always looking for ideas and suggestions on making the program better. Finally, I just wanted to say that there is a big cohort and we have a small team here, but we are committed to delivering the best results and making sure that you have a good experience. So at times, please be patient with us as we go through the multiple requests that we get for support. But essentially, we want to create a community together, and Anna here will be leading that community and managing it, and basically with my help supporting each and every one of you to achieve those great goals. I'm very excited, and I really hope that together we can make our cities a better place, and that your work can be the source of inspiration to many. And I have no doubt we're going to make it happen. So thank you, and over to Anna. If there are any questions, please comment them below. We'll be more than happy to answer. We've got a few minutes left.
Yeah, maybe I would also like to give you an update on some next steps. We're going to be posting your profiles on the website very soon. I will make sure I let you know when they go live. We'll also be sending you a link for you to start the MOOCs. There are some months that have a one module, and then there are some months that are a bit more intensive and have two modules. And then in the second half of the year, as I mentioned, we will start working on solutions once we have gained the knowledge to solve them. I also wanted to reinforce what Sam mentioned of the importance of cities in fulfilling the SDG goals. I think that cities is where all of the goals intersect. Many times it's not as obvious. For example, with the life underwater goal, many times we don't have enough data on how we are affecting life underwater. And cities have such an impact on that one as well. And we could also be measuring that in terms of urban consumption, waste management, and we can input to every single one of the goals from within our cities. So that's why like goal 11 is my favorite for sure. It's the intersection of all of them in one place.
And if I might add, it is also the role of your cities and your city governments. We want to make sure that you have a close relationship with your cities and city governments, with your mayors, as representatives of local pathways, because in order to understand your city, it's very important that you're engaging your local leaders in this. So a big part of this project will also be very close engagement with your community leadership and with your local governments. And that's another thing to really keep in mind, because we want to also find out how we can help you influence their decisions and influence their policy. And in fact, one of your solutions could be how to influence the government. So it's very interesting. We're very, very excited to see how that will turn out in different cities around the world. Yeah. If there are any questions, I think we can see comments.
Yeah, we can see the comments here.
So is that the latest one? So. Okay, great. So if you have any comments, please post them below. Otherwise, you're more than welcome to email it to us, and we'll be more than happy to answer them. Okay, since the profile bios have not been published yet, I was wondering whether I would still be able to make some updates. How do you mean? Sorry, can you?
So update the bio that they sent us. So right now the team is already like they're kind of ready. But if you send an update, I can look into that. But
yeah, no promises.
Kind of almost ready.
Yeah. So they're basically on the website. We just have to coordinate their publish. Yeah. So it will be a bit difficult, but yeah, please.
A Facebook group to communicate. Yes, of course. So we actually have an internal Facebook software, which is called Workplace, where all of the members of the network are on board. So we are going to be inviting you to this like parallel Facebook. It's also a program from Facebook, but it's just called Workspace, and it's for organizations to have their members in kind of like this closed network, and we will have a group with all of the fellows so that you can collaborate within each other with the challenges and as you move on with the modules.
Yeah. I think we will definitely have a dedicated space for more close connections and more connecting, because I think a big part of this cohort, a big part of having a community is connecting with one another. So please use the opportunity. Don't wait for us to connect you. Reach out, can make your friends. The previous cohort, and with some of which we'll invite to this workplace, which you're more than welcome to reach out to and speak to, they connected themselves. They reached out across and made friends, and many of them are working in the similar areas. So they learn from one another, and this has been, I think, for many a very positive experience.
And that was also one of the criteria for selection. We selected members that we think can input to this community and who can like add value to the community. So
yeah,
it's also very important to connect. And then can you comment on the performance metrics?
So, I mean, in terms of the performance metrics, there is no performance metrics. It is that you are given, shall we say, a series of lectures from leading experts. So this is the MOOC modules. You'll be given some readings, and then the rest you're supposed to investigate yourself. And at the end of the month, so every month you will basically have those lectures and MOOCs. And then by the end of the month, you're supposed to submit your, shall we say, your assessment. Now that assessment is part of your investigation, is part of your learning journey, but it's essentially like equivalent of submitting an assignment. If you don't submit an assignment, that's an N. If you submit an assignment that is just not at a satisfactory level, that's an N. And when I say N, I mean that's a not pass. But if you're able to submit something that is satisfactory, of course, then you go to the next MOOC. So as long as you're able to pass the majority, we'll send you the exact numbers, but if you're able to pass the majority of those modules, then that is the minimum requirement. And of course, by the end, you would need to produce some form of a project or intervention.
Then, with regards to projects, once we get to the second phase, are we allowed to partner with UNSD?
Collaborative. We are committed to supporting you in your projects. It of course depends on the project, but we're committed to supporting you in whatever way we can. So once the project is up and running, we will try to put you in touch with experts. We'll try to support in whatever capacity that we have. So of course, yeah.
Would like some advice on how to interact with stakeholders and convey the importance of the fellowship to local leaders, and may find it difficult to understand why we do what we do.
So I think feel free to use some of the talking points I mentioned today on why it's important, what you do, why you do what you do. But I think the overall answer is simple. There are many challenges, and young people are in a very particularly good place to help solve those. And you represent a fellowship that is a world-leading cohort of young urban leaders. So you have this massive network and this great support system to be able to help solve the problems, and that's why what you're doing is incredibly important. I think that is a very...
And well, having said that, I want to share with you that after you pass the first few modules, you will be given an email address with the localpathways.org, so that you can feel more confident when reaching out to your leaders.
So I think it's after the third module we'll give you an official email address, which I think would also be a good door opener in many cases. And from the previous cohort, they were really able to use the name and the title to get inside meetings, to meet with government officials, to meet with local businesses, to meet with local leaders, and really using the name to gather support. And I think that's something we want to do for you. So if you get to the past the first 3 modules successfully, then that's something that we will assist you with.
Then what is the best way to get in touch with us? Yes, you can reach out to us by email. It's from the email from which we invited you to this webinar, anna.gonzalez in Estrellas. Um, and you can always CC the program at localpathways.org so that we all have access to that one, so we can all keep track of what's going on, just in case one of us is not replying quickly. There is someone checking that email constantly as well. Can you elaborate on the time expectations for each module? Yes, so there is one module per month, and you're expected to put in 5 hours per week, 5 to 7 hours. That depends on you. So yeah, 5 hours a week.
Yeah, and yeah, that's largely depends on how well you can make it do. But of course, some people go above that. Some people can do it in less time, but generally around that area.
How to counter administrative apathy at local government departments?
Well, that's a question that takes a lot to unpack. And once you get into the fellowship and you learn more about what different people have done in different places, then I think you will have your answer, hopefully.
Could you share best practices from the previous batch of local pathway fellows on how sustainable their actions are so far?
I think one thing that we are thinking about is having a webinar with a couple of the fellows from the previous batch where you can ask these questions to them. It's very hard to just compile them into one category. But I think for them it was that as a whole, they went above and beyond the task that we gave them. They researched much more in depth than even we asked them. And they met with government leaders. They made a lot of local connections. They really understood the problem, and then they consulted experts as well, local experts, when they were trying to create their solution. As a result, I think they had some really wonderful ideas and projects that came about.
Yeah, so if there are any more questions that come up, feel free to send them to us via email. I can send a document with all the questions that we receive afterwards, so that you're all you might all have the same questions.
Yeah.
So. Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, and we look forward to working with all of you. A massive congratulations to being part of this network, and welcome to the team. We look forward to working with you more. So from us in New York, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening.
Bye-bye.